One of the best reasons for having a cambered blade in your plane is when we come to the squaring of edges. If we move the centre of the plane to the high edge of a piece of timber, this is the sort of cross-section of shaving that will be planed away. If the plane is moved to the high edge, a correction will be made. And it's just a question of estimating how many correcting shavings you need to bring it down to squareness. So that does involve a little bit of practice, but I find that my students get hold of this idea really quite quickly. Now, if your edge is square, you continue the shaving, but you drift back onto centre, and a small shaving is taken away, and it remains square. I think it's a great technique. Our face edge starts off almost exactly the same as the edge exercise that I showed you earlier. So, I shall take a few shavings. I can just hear that machine ripple. Not quite clean yet. We said we had to get it clean before we could do anything. Now I'm going to hollow the length. So I put my pencil marks at either end. Keeping on centre, that was a near one. Using my fingers as a fence underneath. Sorry, not my fingers. I had a lovely student a few years ago who suddenly started complaining of very sore fingers. And it transpired that instead of using the surface of his fingernails as a fence, he was using the flesh at the ends. So we were able to sort that one out. Look, it stopped cutting. That's very slightly hollow, but not clean. So I take a cleaning shaving, and now I'm ready to test the squareness. I tend to have a pencil in my hand when I'm looking at squareness, and I have a little code. I will mark the high side, and I'll mark it with the number of strokes which I think corresponds to the number of correcting shavings that I need. Now, a correcting shaving is made by moving the centre of the plane over to the high edge. If there's no correction to be made, the plane stays on centre. And it's a wonderful system because I can actually deal with twist if it's present. I can start on the right, I can drift on centre, and I can drift over to the left, say. So let's see what's going on. Now, set squares. It's very important how you hold your set square. People who hold a square at the top don't notice when the bottom is rattling. People who hold it at the bottom don't notice when the top is rattling. So it's really important to hold the stock in the middle and to press really quite hard onto the face side and to slide it gently down. Now that's certainly 2 shavings high on the right. That looks like it's 2 shavings high. It's possible that this end is only 1 shaving high. This is where we really exploit the benefits of the cambered blade. This system wouldn't work with the straight blade. In fact, I have no idea how the people with straight blades do it, really. So I move the centre of the plane to the right of the board. I stay on centre, and take a shaving all the way through. And I think you can see that it's thick at one side and fading away almost to nothing at the other side. A second correcting shaving here, but I think the far end may be okay, so I'm going to drift slightly back onto centre. Now I hope to correct my edges in 3 goes. On a lucky day it might be 2 goes, but usually it's 3. This is now a very small correction on the right. This is an extremely small correction on the right. And this one, again, it's a minute correction. Now, for a tiny correction, I only move the plane a small distance to the right. So instead of taking big corrections, we're now taking quite a small one. Let's just see what's going on. This one's perfect in the middle. The end is perfect. And this one is up a tiny fraction. But to be honest, it's so small that I think trying to correct it would be a waste of time. When I'm working with my students, I get them to put a little strip of cigarette paper under one side of the square, and then look at the gap. And the gap we get then is much bigger than the error I've got here. And I think it's quite important, particularly in the beginning, not to chase errors that exceed your skill level. This really is very, very good, and I'm going to stop. Now, I've been planing that way. That's what the fibre marks told me to do. I think I've got a beautiful finish. And on the edge, I use the same marks. So I have a little face edge mark here. And the top was planed that way, so the fibre mark on the edge looks like that. The only time I could get confused with this system is on a square leg, but there I put the face side marks on large and the face edge marks on small.